Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Cupcake Jemma channel with me, Sally, and welcome to your Cast Iron 101. Today I'm going to show you guys how to season and care for your cast iron skillet, because if you watched on Thursday you will have seen me baking my delicious cornbread recipe in a cast iron skillet, because I think it's the best way to be cooking a cornbread. And we're also going to be doing a few more cast iron recipes for you guys on the channel. So I'm going to show you how to season it, how to care for it, and then afterwards I'm going to do a really delicious, simple skillet cookie recipe, which wasn't actually planned, but when I got here, Sam was like, what, you're not gonna bake anything for me to eat? So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna rummage through his cupboards and find something, and we're gonna make a delicious cookie together so that he can eat it and you can bake it at home. So cast iron skillets are fantastic. They are cheap, they last forever, they are totally indestructible. No matter what you do to it, you can get it back to normal and get baking again in it. And also they retain the heat so amazingly, which is why I love to bake in them. You've probably seen people cooking in these, like on the hob, loads of kind of breakfasty kind of foods, but baking in them is super awesome because they hold their heat, because it's so thick and sturdy that you're going to get this amazing crispy outer coating to your bake, just like that cornbread. So the first thing that we need to do when you get your skillet, you'll find actually that when you buy a cast iron skillet, the chances are it's been pre-seasoned. It's probably quite hard to find something that's unseasoned these days, but I personally like to give it my own little season once or twice before I get baking with it. And it's actually very, very simple to do. It's gonna give it a lovely kind of non-stick coating, and over time this is going to get kind of completely non-stick as well, naturally, with this kind of build-up of kind of fat that we're going to add to it. So how do we season our cast iron skillets? The first thing we need to do is get it kind of warm but not scorching hot. So let's go over to the oven over here. The oven is off currently. I'm going to put my cast iron into the oven and it's nice and cold, so then we're going to switch it on. And we're going to start this off at 100, so it's pretty low. And I'm going to leave that in there for 20 minutes, just for it to get a little bit warm before we start introducing any oils. So give me 20 minutes and I'll give you step 2. Right, so after 20 minutes, our pan has warmed through. Please always remember to wear an oven glove. I know it's got a handle and temptation is to just go in and grab it, but please don't do that. So I've got this lovely heat-proof glove on that I borrowed from Sam. So now we can start applying some seasoning. So for this, we're gonna need some oil. Now, I would recommend using a flavorless oil and something that has a high cooking and smoking temperature. I would stay away from olive oils and also any animal fats, because they can have a tendency to go kind of rancid, and you don't really want that in your pan, particularly if it's kind of not being used all that often. So I've got some Trex here, which is a vegetable shortening. So any vegetable oil, sunflower oil, flax oil will be absolutely perfect. And now we need something to apply it with. So I've got this little bit of off-cut tea towel here. Now I would think this is probably the best thing to use rather than kitchen paper, because I mean, this pan here is a very smooth kind of pan. It's been kind of ground down to be lovely and smooth, but what you'll probably find, and what my pan at home looks like, is this. It's very kind of rough and kind of bumpy inside, and if you can imagine oil and kitchen paper wiping across this, you're just going to get loads of little bits of paper in there, and you know, obviously not ideal. So a bit of tea towel is perfect, and you don't need to wash this all the time. You can just keep it so that it's ready to use again and again. So let's grab a little bit of our Trex. Now you don't want too much of this, she says, as she grabs a massive blob. And what we're going to do is we're going to wipe it all the way in the inside as well as the outside, and also along the handle. It's going to give this whole thing a good coat. Now what we don't want is to put loads of oil in here, because we don't want it to kind of pool and go splodgy. So once I've put it in, I'm actually just going to wipe it out, basically. So the oil is going into all the little pores of our pan. And now, let's just give this bit a wipe. Let's go back to the oven. So it's still at 100. I'm gonna, whoopsie, pop my pan back in, and I'm gonna turn it up to 150. And I'm gonna leave it in there until it comes to temperature. My oven here, Sam's oven's got a handy little gauge that tells me, but kind of 5 minutes, and then we're gonna take it out again. Okie doke, so the oven is up to temperature, which means our pan is up to temperature. So the next stage in our seasoning lesson is to grab back our cloth, and we're just gonna wipe off as much oil as we possibly can, which you might be thinking, we've only just put the oil on, what are we doing taking it off? Well, what we're doing here is trying to achieve the thinnest layer of oil, which is gonna build up over time as we use our skillet, and also if we season it in between using it, we're building up that layer of seasoning. What you don't wanna do here is have too much oil, because it can kind of pool or make little splodges in there, make it a little bit uneven. So we are just wiping off as much as we can, because I mean, there's no way you're going to wipe off all of the oil by doing this. So once you think you're there, let's go back to the oven for our final step. And what we're going to do now is we're turning our pan upside down, and the reason for that is, you know, if by any chance there is extra oil in there, it will drip out. And now we're going to crank up this oven to 220 or 225, as hot as your oven goes, and we really want to just bake that oil on. We're going to leave it in for 1 hour, and it's going to bake, it's going to get hot, it's going to become part of the pan. Oil and pan become one, like in a beautiful romance. And that's going to be building up our non-stick layer, and it's also going to help the pan from getting rusty. So after 1 hour, I'm going to turn the oven off and let the pan cool down inside the oven. And basically, that's it. So whilst our pan is seasoning away in the oven, creating that lovely non-stick layer, I'm just going to give you a couple of tips on how to maintain and look after your cast iron to keep it in tip-top condition. But like I said, if it does go rusty, please do not freak out. Do not, whatever you do, throw away your pan and buy a new one. All you need to do is wash it back, get rid of all of that rust just by washing it, and then you're going to do that whole sequence again in the oven to restart the seasoning kind of process. So what you need to do after you've cooked with it is to look after it. Now, unlike how I just said that oil and cast iron are creating this beautiful romance together, cast iron and water are like enemies. That equals rust. So no matter how stuck on your food is, do not soak this pan like you would normally with other pans or plates or bowls or whatever it is. We do not want to be soaking this. If it would actually be easier to just warm up your pan gently if you have got loads of bits of food stuck on there, maybe on the hob, just gently, just because that will help to kind of release them. And then you're going to give it a splash of water. You can use washing up liquid, even though people say generally to stay away from it. These days, washing up liquid's kind of fine, but I personally just use water, and then you're going to grab something kind of abrasive, like a little scrubber here, or you can use chainmail, or you can get little plastic scrapers specifically for this to really scrub off any excess food that's got stuck onto your pan, but this way we're not upsetting our seasoned layer. And now we want to make sure that we dry this pan really, really well, because we obviously don't want any water staying on there. So pop it onto your hob, just on a nice gentle heat to let any water kind of evaporate off. And then once that's happened, we're going to grab back our Trex, your shortening, your oil, whatever it is that you've been seasoning with. And now this isn't actually seasoning, but what we're going to be doing is adding a little protective film of our oil, just a very, very thin coating, using our rag to stop it from kind of rusting away in the cupboard before we use it again. And now we are ready to use our skillet that is nicely seasoned. And like I said before, I'm not allowed to go home until I have baked something for Sam. So give me 2 minutes, let me rummage around, find some ingredients, and we'll bake a delicious skillet cookie with you guys. Well, I have found all sorts of exciting things here. We've got some pretzels, some fun looking chocolate, some ginger, obviously, like Sam probably eats at least like 2 pots of these a day, some bits of fudge. So I'm going to show you kind of the basic cookie recipe that you can then chuck whatever you like into. So we're going to start by burning some butter. So I'm going to take my lovely seasoned pan, which is a little bit hot still, so I'm going to put it on the hob and I'm going to actually burn this butter. So you could do this in the microwave, but why do that when we can do it in our lovely pan? Okey-doke. So once the butter has melted and started to turn golden, we're going to gently bring it over here and I'm going to pour it into this bowl, which is where we're going to mix it all. I have actually tried to mix it in the pan before. It didn't go so well. So we're going to take it out and you can see in here it's got these little bits, kind of not as golden and dark brown as we sometimes take our butter, but you can see those nuggety bits in there. And also this is going to add a really lovely flavour, this bit of butter that's left around the inside of our pan. It's going to be delicious. So let's leave that there. And to this, I can't remember if I said, but it's 110 grams of butter. I'm going to add some sugar. So of course I've got light brown sugar because for me that is the only sugar to make cookies with, but whatever sugar you've got will do. So we've got 130 going into our butter and we'll just give it a little stir around just to combine it. And into that we're going to add 1 egg. So as usual, cracking into a separate bowl, then we're going to pour it in and stir. So next up we've got dry ingredients, which we're going to pop through a sieve. So I've got 150 grams of plain flour, which is all purpose. So let's just sift that through. And then we're going to go with some raising agents. So we've 1/4 teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and I'm also going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So then grab a wooden spoon or a spatula or a Mr. Spoon. If you don't have a Mr. Spoon, then too bad, man. And then we're going to fold this together until it's fully combined. And once it's all smooth, it's time to get creative. So we're just going to add in all these random bits and bobs. I'm actually going to pop in about half a teaspoon, it might be more, of vanilla and just stir that through so that we've got a lovely kind of underlying flavour, very comforting and warming flavour vanilla is. And then we'll put some fun stuff in. So I found these little fudgy pieces. I have no idea if these will bake, but we'll see what happens, right? So I'm just going to chuck a few of those in and then some pretzels because why not? It's kind of going to be a bit of a trash canny cookie, I reckon. And I'm going to crumble those in. And some ginger. So this is crystallized ginger, which, oh, it is absolutely amazing. If you love ginger, then you've got to get some of this. I'm just going to chop it up a little bit. Keep it chunky and chuck those in as well. And then you know what I say, a cookie is not a cookie without chocolate. So I have here what claims to be caramelized white chocolate, but if you want caramelized chocolate, you know what to do. And if you don't, then there's a video in the description box on how to make caramelized white chocolate, because if you've never had it in your life, do not go to the supermarket and buy this. Make your own. So let's chuck some of this in. And then a little bit of this chocolate too, because why not? And this has actually got, I think it's almonds in it too. So we'll get a little bit of texture from these. We'll just roughly chop these up, chuck those in. I actually really like using chopped up chocolate bars as chocolate chips because they're really irregular in shape, so I think it looks cool. I don't know if it tastes different, but to me, in my little brain, it does. Anyway, that's all in, so let's give it a good stir. So let's just get this back into our pan. Remember that if you have done your butter in the pan, it is going to be hot, so don't go grabbing that handle. And we'll put it in. It's quite a thick batter, this. So plop it on top. And then just push it to cover the base. I've got a little bit left here, sorry. I gotta get all the cookie in. And now before we bake it, we gotta make it Instagram perfect, right? So that's what we all care about. So I've just got some extra of our kind of filling additions that I've cut up, and it's gonna sprinkle those on top so it looks cool. And finally, I'm just gonna put on a few little bits of flaky sea salt. And we are ready. All right, so my oven is preheated to 180 degrees C, fan assisted. I'm gonna put this in for 15 minutes, I reckon. But you wanna keep an eye on it. You just wanna get it nice and golden and crispy on top, but we wanna make sure that it is gooey inside still. So let's give 15 and see what we reckon. Smells great. The ginger is super strong. Right, I've let it cool down for about, what was that, like 10 minutes? Just to take the kind of immediate kind of heat off it, but I do think you should eat this warm. If you had ice cream, we don't have any ice cream here, but I would bung a load of ice cream on top of this and then just dig straight in. So I'm just gonna have to dig in Sans ice cream, but I'm hoping, oh yeah, it's so gooey. Yeah, look at that. Oh yeah. That was quite hot still. If you do prefer it a little bit more baked through and less gooey, I mean, I love a gooey cookie, gooey brownie, gooey anything, but just leave it in. I think mine was in for 17 minutes in total. If you wanted a little bit more, maybe you go for 20 minutes, but for me, this is perfect. And it's so much fun. You can just put in whatever you like. Create your own cookies. And let me know what you put in yours. Follow us over on Instagram. And hashtag CupcakeJemma. You can tag me at Sally Dells, so I can see what you're up to as well. So Dane and I are going to be bringing you loads of different recipes that you can make in your cast iron. So go off and get yours. Or if you've already got it, then get it seasoned and ready to go. And we'll be back next Thursday with another recipe. Let us know anything that you're craving. I mean, I'm just craving to eat this. I'm just trying to drag this out because I know how much Sam is wanting to eat this. Talky, blah, blah, blah. And I'm kidding, guys. We'll see you on Thursday with another recipe. All right, here, have a little spoon. Come on, in you come. Yeah, get that good stuff. Come on.